Welcome to the Obvious Podcast, episode number 73. My name is Sonny.
And I'm Peter Daiga, President and CEO at ABC Florida East Coast.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Sonny. You're listening to the Obvious Podcast, where all opinions expressed are our own, unless we say otherwise.
Thank you for saying my line. I completely dropped the ball.
Love the show. Subscribe on any major podcast platform or watch us in action on YouTube. Follow the Obvious Podcast on Instagram, X, Truth Social, and TikTok. All the links you need are in the show notes. And, of course, you can reach out to us anytime at theobvious@abceastflorida.com. And if you're enjoying the ride, help others find us by leaving us a review wherever you listen.
That's right.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. By the way, Mr. Producer told me TikTok is on fire.
Yeah?
Right?
I don't even think I've gone there. So
I haven't
do
either.
I even have I should. I'd probably get upset. What is, are we
would get
attracting?
upset?
Are we? Yeah, we'll get a good laugh. So, all right. Anyway, check us out.
Oh,
if you
man.
want a
Are
good
people
laugh,
calling us Nazis or
get
something? Because I don't think I could handle that.
Well, get ready. If not, they will be.
Is it U.S. owned yet, or is it still Chinese owned?
TikTok? I know they reached a deal.
I know they reached a deal. I wonder whatever. Yeah. All right. So you know what I wanted to talk to you about was, and I see this in social media all the time, and I see it as a massive, danger to good leadership, right?
Okay.
Because we deal with a lot of leaders, obviously, right? And I call it, well, this is what I call it, and I'm sure that there might be a different term for it, or there might not be. The fallacy of the anecdotal evidence.
Okay.
Right? And what got me really thinking on this, remember a few weeks ago, the whole thing happened with the Minneapolis daycares and, and people were like, there was like no money. I mean, it was a massive multi-billion-dollar fraud. And so if you read the stories on the internet and you read the comments attached to the stories, there's obviously the whole spectrum is represented in the comments, but there was always a few, well, I don't believe this because I have a great Somali neighbor, or my cousin's best friend is Somali and they're amazing people. And, this can't be the reality.
So what do you mean by anecdotes are a fallacy? Because for those people, that's
right.
True. That's reality.
It's reality that one story, personal story, but like a personal story doesn't create a general claim, right? Like data to me creates a general claim. Personal stories are just that, they're personal stories. So I'm sure there were a lot of Germans during the Holocaust who helped, I have no idea what the data on this is, but I'm sure there were Germans who helped Jews escape, right?
Sure.
But that doesn't mean that the whole of sort of German culture and what the German army did is sort of mitigated by that.
Yeah, sure.
And I see a lot of that in leadership, because this is my experience, this is reality, and
that's the key, I think. That's the key, right? Because it's, I get your point, right. And you're right, one data point,
right,
cannot be the basis, for making an argument or trying to, substantiate a claim. Because that to me is the key point.
Right,
there.
that my reality doesn't create data, right? My experience doesn't create data, just because I've had a great experience. I mean, a common one is restaurants, right? Like,
that's a great,
somebody can go to a restaurant, have a really good experience.
This is what I think I hate about the media. I'm sorry, I got really, oh my God, I had somebody I considered a decent friend over the years really give me a hard time for using the word hate. You can hate the group or the behavior, but not the individual. Anyway, that's for another show.
I mean, you can hate the institution.
But anyway, I just caught myself, that I think that's what I really dislike or hate about, in general, the overall media, right? Because that's what they do. They take anecdotal stories and they try to make a trend out of it. They try to make an issue out of it.
Exactly.
Or they try to make it a larger scale problem. That's what they do all the time.
Yep.
In particular, I've noticed over the last, and I know this was on the point of the show, but in particular, I don't know that other people recognize this, but every story the local media especially does on the police or law enforcement is always negative.
Great example.
Always negative.
Of anecdotal evidence being disguised as fact.
Right.
Right. Or
So they go and find one little story of something, and even if it's not what it appears to be, they will spin it as such.
Yeah.
But to the greater point, that's an anecdotal story. It's not looking at overall data where, 95% or whatever the number is of typical police encounters are. Anyway, and it ties perfectly right back to what we saw happening in recent weeks in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and whatnot. Same thing, right? With the controversy there. Yeah.
Right. So the reason I wanted to talk about this, your story.
There's a reason? Do we have to have a reason?
Well, one is to entertain and enlighten our audience.
How does this apply to ABC?
Exactly.
Sonny?
How does it apply to ABC? We deal with a lot of leadership, right? We have boards for everything. We have committees for everything. And I think one of the things that we have to be always on the lookout for is to remind our boards, remind our leaders, remind our committees not to make decisions based on anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
Right?
That's great.
Not to make decisions based on your own personal experience.
That's great.
You got to look at
There's another word for that. Conflict of interest.
Exactly.
Kind of, right?
Exactly.
Are they kind of tied?
Of course. It is absolutely conflict of interest because you're taking your own sort of experience. Now, I'm not saying their experience is illegitimate.
Right.
Right.
Or even wrong. Or it could be spot on.
Right. But that cannot be the basis of how you govern in your leadership roles.
This is a pretty profound assertion we're making here.
Mm-hmm.
So, because then otherwise, how do you do it?
It's an important point.
Otherwise, how do you do it? A lot of people are probably asking that.
You do it based on facts, data,
Okay.
and on the recommendation of the people that are actually in the leadership roles who are actually doing the implementation of what you've asked them to implement.
Right.
Right? So the idea that if we go to our board and we say we would like for you to make a decision based on this, and they have questions, right? Greater than their lived experience is our experience implementing whatever the issue is that we're talking about. Right?
Sure.
That's what I really wanted to talk about, because I feel like that in leadership, I think most leaders really succumb to this fact that because of their own lived experience and their own lived evidence, or not really their own evidence, but you know what I mean, the fact that they've kind of been through it themselves, then they will take that and they will just sort of superimpose it on all other decision making.
And that's,
And it could be right.
And that's not like to not be expected, right?
Right.
I mean, that's the human experience.
It's the human
I think.
experience.
So then how would you balance, I don't know, is there any value in the, human experience, the anecdotal experience, and how would you balance that with, wanting to make sure that overall larger decisions and planning is not just based
I think one of the ways you really should, especially as a leader, balance it. So there's something called availability bias. I did some research on this topic. So availability bias basically says one of the reasons you assume it's true and correct is because it's easy for you to remember. So things that are harder for you to remember don't fall under the availability bias, so you will not sort of subscribe to that.
Okay.
So the access to that memory or access to that experience is what makes it feel that it's true, right? So I think if you are sitting in a boardroom or in a committee or in your corner office and trying to make a decision, it has to be based on sort of the big picture, like the plethora of information available.
Sure.
Including, and I'm not saying personal anecdotes have to be excluded for it, but they can't be the driving force of decision making. Because I think that's what really leads to the conflict of interest. And when you say, and we should clarify, there's way more conflict of interest than just sort of financial. I think most people think conflict of interest.
Yes.
They just think it's financial. And
that's kind of to your point that you just made, I think. So, but yeah, if we were to talk or try to make this nexus a little, spend a little more time doing that between conflict of interest and relying on anecdotal experiences or whatnot, that's to me very important, because what I've learned over the years is when you start to talk about conflict of interest, yes, people immediately think of financial conflict of interest.
There's no conflict of interest. I'm not making any money.
Exactly.
Right? Like
exactly. Yeah, but there's so many different conflicts of interest. When you understand and always keep in mind the definition, it doesn't necessarily mean financial. It just means personal interests over the collective or the organ. It's weird. It almost sounds communist, right? So, But you need to have the organization's best interests as opposed to your personal interest. So in some ways, it is very anti. When it comes to governing an organization, it's one thing, but when it comes to governing our economy or our country,
Exactly.
But even our country, right? I mean, I don't. We're really getting far stream now, but I don't. One of the conclusions I've kind of made in my life, I think, although I better be careful about saying that, right? Because I'm open to,
of course, you did,
and I've changed, but that the difference between the left and the right really isn't, for the most part, although sometimes I really question this, but isn't really wanting the best for overall society. All right, so a communist like Mandami or socialist or whatever, I'm just looking for the collective good. What's the saying that's getting so much? The warmth of collectivism over the frigidity of individualism, right? So, okay, all right, fine, but you know what? Trump probably feels the exact same way. I mean, he says every decision he makes is thinking about the good of the country. So they're not that far apart in that. Where the political spectrum differs is how to achieve it.
Yeah.
How to get there. And sometimes what interests they think are, like a big one for the president recently, which, by the way, I read it, again, we're all over today, but that's part of the beauty of the show, right? It's been in the news a lot about the whole Greenland, actually from the beginning of his presidency, I think, and then it kind of spikes and then goes away for a little bit, but it's been spiking lately. And sure enough, I read this story on the Daily Mail or, some European publication about Denmark's CIA or whatever they call their intelligence agencies. Actually, a year ago, came out of a report about how China and Russia are trying to, I don't want to say overtake or overcome, but basically
to control dominance,
control Greenland, to control dominance in Greenland. So it's like I'm reminded of those memes. Trump was right about everything. It appears he's right about this too. And what's driving him? What's driving him is his interest in the United States, the long-term interest of the United States. So, in any event, I think that's why he can pick up the phone, it was recently reported too, that I think when Pocahontas, I'm sorry, what's her name? Isn't it? Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren. So that's great. Whatever marketing, if I can remember Pocahontas, but not Senator Warren. So I think she had said a thing about affordability and whatnot at some speech that she gave, and the president called her up. And that's what I love about him. He called her up because you and I agree on affordability. But I bet you his conversation was about, why your policies don't get us there? Here's why.
Yeah.
And he would have just used anecdotal evidence to kind of close the loop. I think we have a lot of data, multiple sets of data points.
Yeah.
Not just our experience.
Now, when Elizabeth Warren says she's for affordability, or Gavin Newsom says she's for affordability, he's for affordability. Sorry, I didn't mean to misgender. Right. Yeah, I didn't mean to misgender the governor of California. There is I think, inherent, like we all know, like, hey, blue states are more expensive. New York, California, Massachusetts, Illinois are more expensive.
Some people could have that anecdotal experience.
Of course.
But it's a fact.
If you pull the data, housing costs, right, food costs, fuel costs, they're always higher in blue states, always. And data backs it up. So you can have something you feel anecdotally, because, my gosh, when I went to California a couple of years ago, $7.49 I paid for gas in near Big Sur. I was driving from the Pacific Coast, from LA to San Francisco.
What year was this?
This was
a while back?
Pre-COVID. $7.39 or $7.89 I paid at this one gas station. And I was like, what the, and I had never seen $5 gas.
Good thing they're for the working class. Because if they weren't, what would we be paying? What would they be paying out there?
And it's like,
is this connected at all with? I posted actually an article, which was one of the. Every once in a while, I come across something, and I usually post must read. I don't do that with but there's some that are just so profound, in my opinion. And I was talking about the real problem we have today is the loss of reasoning, and logic and
there's emotionalism, right?
emotionalism, and this is a kind of related, in a way.
Absolutely.
It's like relying on anecdotal information rather than data. No amount of data you can present it to somebody if they're going to just rely on their anecdotal experience or an emotion. No, unfortunately, today, I think in the past, if you could have, people were still valued reasoning, the ability to reason through, an issue or a problem. But nowadays, it's just to hell with the data points.
Yeah, doesn't remember that lady who was shot in Minneapolis?
Good.
Good.
Everybody remembers that name.
Yes, because it's an easy name to remember, I guess.
Well, that's because that's what the media want us to remember.
Right.
But nobody remembers the victims of violence or anyway.
But I remember when that story happened, and I have a habit of trying to kind of watch Fox News and MSNBC and CNN. And one of the news I always watch is ABC, because I grew up watching ABC News, right? And even when I was young, I was like, man, this doesn't feel right. But I had no, obviously.
What's going on with CBS, by the way? There's a lot of controversy about them lately.
Yeah.
Kind of like reset or something.
Yeah, because they are under new ownership, so they brought this.
Well, that's really, I pissed off at him for some reason.
Yeah, and the lady they brought, she's not some like kooky right winger. I mean, she's just a.
That's the unfortunate. What happens with this is now the moderates look like, right? This is
They
the
look like kooky
unfortunate.
right wingers.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons they hate her so much is because she's Jewish, and I think she has taken a lot of grief for that.
Because that's one of those third rail, is that the right term? But it's one of those.
The amount of anti-Semitism I've seen online now, it's just mind-blowing.
It is mind-blowing.
I mean, it's insane how much you see that. And you see it from the left, not from the right. And she has taken a lot of heat for, they've called her all sorts of like Zionists. And
I think there's hints of it on the right.
Candace Owens has kind of lost her mind on it completely.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the whole idea of
for another show, maybe.
So the ABC News. I'm watching the story on Good, who has just been killed, and if all you watch is ABC News, you would think this is what the guy said, and I'm going to find the link for the actual story and post it in the show notes.
Right.
The reporter actually said that she had just dropped her kids off to school and was going home.
Unemployed mother of whatever,
Right.
It's like Maryland dad.
By the way, how do all these unemployed people who are on welfare need daycares? Like that's another question I have.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a great question that was brought up in the whole Somali thing.
right. Like if you
Speaking of data, I mean, it's like 80% of them are on welfare,
why do they need daycares
right?
if they're home?
Right.
It's not anyway. Data, right? I saw a meme about that, and a guy's holding up a sign.
Data doesn't matter. We want to feel good.
Exactly, and he said,
Our neighbors, we love them.
but it's misplaced empathy. It's toxic empathy, right? It's just this insane idea of empathy, like minorities can do whatever they want. There's no standard to hold them to. And I used to see this in high school. Like I remember this. We should do an episode on this. I took a class in anthropology, right? And my teacher was like, "Yep, all cultures are the same." I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?"
What topic did this teacher?
Anthropology. It was an anthropology professor, teacher, right?
That's just ironic.
And it was just like, what? And then we were reading about these
The
cultures.
whole point of anthropology, kind of like to
Study cultures.
study cultures and the differences
And the differences,
and the similarities, perhaps. But
But anyway, it was just an insane idea. And I think that's kind of morphed into this
can you think in your relatively short
life.
experience at ABC
Yeah.
of, I don't know, some examples where you might, where it was important or we successfully made sure that we made decisions based more on, data.
Yeah.
As
I can think of
including with our volunteer, input
Yeah.
and their leadership and their support and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Because again, nothing at nonprofits or associations can be done without the support of the volunteer leadership, whose primary goal is, obviously good strategic planning and governance and financially making sure that we have the money to achieve the goals that they've set out for us. So can you think of an example? I mean,
Yep. I can give you a great example. My early in my career here, Miami-Dade County came out with a bill, and they called it their Heat Ordinance. And if you read the bill, it only covered construction
and agriculture.
Like all other industries were exempt.
Didn't cover
Didn't even cover their own employees.
Postal employees,
Anybody who
park
works
workers, anybody that works outside, meter readers, their own employees, all of which are kind of subject to the same.
So then we were like, what the hell?
Do as I say,
right?
not as I do.
And then the first question was, okay, how many construction workers are dying in heat-related accidents? And it was like,
And there was one, or I don't know,
I think it was
locally,
like 2 in 5 years.
right?
And,
Nationwide, or
nationwide.
I don't know.
Like, we were looking
One
at
locally, and it was even questionable whether because
he had like drug issues and all of that stuff. I mean, the whole policy was based on one anecdote, and they came out with it.
yeah,
And we were like, "This, you can't do this. This is insane.
right,
You have no data to back this up." And they had no data to back it up.
right.
You know,
Do you think it was defeated primarily because of the lack of data, or was it something else? Yeah, probably.
it was defeated because we have a robust government affairs program. We've been fighting bad policies for a long time.
good partners,
Good partners,
alliances. I think.
absolutely.
So,
You know, a lot of elected officials supported us, you know, and we went to them and we showed the elected officials who supported us, look at this data. This is why you need to oppose this. You're trying to solve a problem. It's not even a problem.
that's a great example. I was thinking, thank you, but I was thinking more, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but something more association, more wonky association-esque, something internally, a decision, a strategic direction, or whatever that might have gone in a more anecdotal direction or evidence direction, and instead cooler heads looking at data and looking at maybe prevail.
I got one like resonating in my head. I just
Wow.
don't want to say.
We didn't even. I mean, I didn't give you a forewarning, but you don't want to say.
I don't want to say.
Okay. All right. So can you do it in a way to?
I can do it in a way. I think it was a disagreement with a board member. The board member reacted with a lot of emotional. It was an emotional response, and an understandable emotional response, right? Because anecdotally, it kind
So
of.
far, so good, because I'm not sure I made the connection yet. So if I haven't, so good.
All right, good.
Keep going.
So it was an emotional reaction from a board member, and the board member reacted. And when the preponderance of evidence was shown to the entire board, the issue kind of went away.
It's a good example.
Yeah.
Because and assuming, or obviously assuming without getting into details, what the preponderance of evidence was, and that people would agree that there was multiple data sets.
There were multiple data sets. There were historical data sets. There were impact data sets. There were effectiveness data sets.
Right.
There was governance data sets, like how a lot of these things had been approved by the board.
And by the way, this isn't anything negative. This is part of management. This is part of life. This is part of, probably. But
that's what we're saying. Like,
everybody who's lilistening in their daily business.
We all react. We all react based on anecdotal evidence.
And we all should strive to make sure that it's more
data-driven.
Data-driven. Yeah. So, and, by the way, there's a premise in all this, which is you got to have good data.
Yeah.
And that sometimes is a real challenge. Yeah. So.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed that.
I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but I thought it was pretty decent. So
it was I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. So
just as leaders, to be aware of how we are approaching decisions, right?
Yep.
And to not allow our own biases and our own conflicts of interest and our own anecdotal fallacies affect those. That's all.
So great subject, Sonny. So bring us home.
All right. Thank you for joining us. Oh yeah, I got to tell you this. For comments, and we hope you have some, send us an email at theobvious@abceastflorida.com.
Thanks for listening and honoring us with your time. We look forward to sharing another episode with you next Friday.